process in Vietnam for the PDP-8, and this is contain the fundamental change in the power plans to meet the net zero commitment in COP26 that the promised Phạm Minh Chính has already committed to COP26. But this is I must say this is the process, because this is we are taking into account the interest of investor as well as the different views of the authorities in Vietnam to try to set up the PDP-8 so that we can apply for the coming years. And also the Ministry of Industry and Trade is proposing to develop a renewable energy law for creating a solid legal corridor to invest, operate, and develop the supply chain for renewable energy. This is still also under the process that going on now in Vietnam, and we hope that of course we are now still in the process of improve all these supporting policy for green development in Vietnam, and that's why I think also we need to get also I hope that I can get from you in this stage also for the improvement the policy, and so that we can promote the good investment in Vietnam in the renewable energy areas. And thank you very much, and sorry if I can pass the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mạnh Hải Nguyễn. Yeah, I think it's also worth to mention that with the incentive policy of Vietnam for green energy, Vietnam in the last year also had a very high rate of green growth, and yeah, it's still in the growing. And as you know that we are in Vietnam, there's so many and there's very restricting policy for investment in Vietnam, and also the number of German foreign investment in Vietnam is also growing in the last years. So yeah, and thank you again for the information, Dr. Mạnh Hải Nguyễn. As you already mentioned, that the policy are still needs to be improved. And how can we improve that in order to exchange with countries who already have so many achievements in this field? And let me invite Dr. Đỗ Thành Trung on the stage. He is the former professor at the University in Harburg and an expert in green energy, and he also a founder of one of his startup, More Energy, and he will give us an insight about technology transfer between Germany and Vietnam. So, Dr. Đỗ Thành Trung.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Ha. Ladies and gentlemen, dear Mr. Hải, the counselor of and head of the investment ministry from the embassy, Vietnam embassy here in Berlin. So welcome to my presentation, and I have brought to you the topic green tech transfer from Vietnam to Germany, and why it is needed that we should found an energy hub, an instrument that can improve this process of technology transfer. As you have introduced myself, so I'm standing here, and I can tell you I'm the 1.5 generation of Vietnamese living here in Germany. That means that I was born in Vietnam and came when I was 12 to Germany, so I lived over 30 years here in Germany. part-time also in Berlin. And so I can say that in my press there are two hearts. It's a Vietnamese and also a German heart. And this topic, it's a very personal topic also for me. And why I'm standing here and want to talk to you about green technology transfer. So I have been working in the energy sector over 20 years ago. I started studying electrical engineering here in Berlin, and then came to Hamburg. I spent a lot of my time in the university, give lectures, and as you told before, I got completely to my company, I was also professor at the TU Hamburg and was the head of the Institute Electrical Energy System. So let's begin with my presentation with a short example. So in my company, it's more energy. We have a unique technology. This technology, we are able to put it in every connection point of the grid infrastructure and can give the feedback, or we are able to scan the critical situation in each grid. So in the first moment, if you heard about this, you wouldn't say, is this a green tech, right? So you have imagined green tech, it's completely other pictures. But in 2017, as More Energy, we won a green tech startup prize. And what we bring benefit to the customer is that we help them to check the system before they connect renewable energy into the grid and offer them benefits that they can save costs and they know and how to operate the system more reliably. So for me, green tech is much more than thinking about how to manufacture wind turbines, how to build an industry where you can build solar cells or gigafactory of batteries. It's much more than that. It's about know-how, it's about technology that create a sustainable supply chain. And the supply chain helps you to improve the operation of green energy resources, help you to make them reliable and save the cost of the operation. It's about technology. It helps you to implement infrastructure that operate reliable, stable, and this is very important if you want to develop renewable energy in Vietnam, for example. The problem you have now in Vietnam is not that you have too less power, too less energy. You have too much of it. To that time, you don't need it. And the reason is that there's a bottleneck of the grid infrastructure. And the next step is, so this is the first point you have to solve. And the second point to solve is, what do you do with the energy during the time you don't need it? It's about storage, so battery storage system, for example, installing in the grid. Or, this is the future, it's not my own opinion, but hydrogen infrastructure. This is the next big thing where Germany and Vietnam can cooperate. Because Germany still have a leadership in this technology. The next thing is not only producing renewable energy sources, but thinking about what do you do with all this technology after the lifetime of such technology. So we are talking about recycling business. Germany has lost or failed in building a sustainable solar industry. And they became more and more challenged in wind industry too. But Germany is still tech leader in green tech sector. That means recycling, efficient technologies, and so on. And I would widen, how can I go back? I would widen the word technology transfer to know-how transfer, because technology transfer only is not enough. Vietnamese has to know how the technology works and to implement in the future also own technology. At this point, so I'm growing up here in Germany over 30 years, and the experience I have made on my own is that German and Vietnamese cooperate a lot in social life, and the community of Vietnam is accepted in Germany. And also between the government, there are a lot of good words they give each other. But at the end, the numbers of trade exchange, I mean, speaks another word. So what you can see here is that Germany is not among the top partners in business between Germany and Vietnam. So you can see the export is only 2.4% and the import is 1.3%. As well as in green tech transfer, there's no noticeable exchange between both countries. And that's the reason why we are a network of experts who are German but has Vietnamese background, want to change this. And this is the reason why we are founding a hub that is called the Energy Hub Vietnam and Germany. And we aim to have added value by that. How we can do that? So you can see here, so today is a very special day. 3 years ago, we have founded the Network Association GIA. It's a group of a lot of experts, so exactly today. So it is the third birthday of our organization. And now we want to go a next step, to go deeper in innovation, so concentrating in the energy sector. And what I can say is that we are a strong network with a lot of experts here who understand Vietnam and also the German situation, the German side. And every of us in this network has also its own network to German companies, to Vietnamese, Germany, and we want to create a new platform that helps each other inside the network, but also for others who want to join to green tech sector in Vietnam. And last but not least, we are supported by a renewable energy association. It's called the WAP. There are 250 companies that is in the field of offshore energy, and they are very interested to join the Vietnam market, but don't know why. And we would generate this benefit of our hub. And I can say there are a lot of SMEs, they are the owners of technology, but they don't have the capacity to invest in lobby. Yeah? But they want to join, they have technology, they understand what they do. And this is exactly what we need now for the technology and know-how transfer between Germany and Vietnam. So I show you at last our first partners. So we have a lot of people in Siemens who joined this hub. We have GIA as a network. We have the WAP, as I told you before, Fraunhofer Institute, my company. And for the Vietnam side, EVN, it's a power electricity company. Also, are invited and support this project and the SEND group and so on. And let me say thank you for your attention, and if you are interested, join this hub and have a good time. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Trưởng Bộ, for a very inspiring inspirational keynote. And I think you can stay already in the stage because you will be joining us in our panel discussion together with Mr. Mạnh Hải, Nguyễn, and with also two other panelists, Mr. Tarek Hassan, he is the head of Digital Transformational Center of GIA in Vietnam, and also Châu Nguyễn. She is the leader of community development at Viet Startup in my organization, and she is a certified ESG analyst. So please welcome and join me on the stage. So if you have any question or comments, please save it in the last of our discussions. So I will give you a chance to raise your question then to our panelists. So yeah, thank you. I'm happy to have you here in the in this discussion, Mr. Mạnh Hải. We also have another discussion last year, and today we'll talk more about green energy. And yeah. I know that Vietnam made a strong commitment to achieve the net zero emission by 2015. So it is an ambition goal for Vietnam. Why did the energy sector become one of the key focus of the country?
Okay, thank you very much for your question. Yeah, eventually we have the net zero commitment by 2050, and that is made by our Prime Minister Mr. Phạm at COP26, and I think it's very important that in Vietnam this is as you have already mentioned, that is a really ambitious commitment, but this is also reflect the strong government determination to reduce the CO2 emission in Vietnam, and this is why we because we departure from the current status of Vietnamese economy with also the high emission in the energy sector, also the transportation and agriculture as well. But energy sector is one of the focus because this is one of the largest sector that have the current the emission level in Vietnam, and I think also similar to some other countries, and also because the energy is the very important input for the production in Vietnam, and also another reason is that the thermal power plant in Vietnam made by from coal-fired power plants still account for a large share, still about 40%, more than 40% of the Vietnamese energy mix, and so that's why we need to reduce the emission from the energy sector. And the renewable energy sector also developing fast in recent years in Vietnam, and we have good potential of renewable energy. So that's why we focus on the energies in the process of achieving the net zero commitment made by the Prime Minister at the COP26. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And the next question will be for Ms. Châu Nguyễn. I know that you do a lot of individual SDG analysis, and can you tell me how can green energy contribute to Vietnam SDG targets?
Yeah.
It's on. It's on.
Yeah, okay. So first of all, I'll start with the most obvious SDG, which is SDG 7, affordable and clean energy. Developing solar and wind energy infrastructure will obviously have Vietnam increase the share of renewable energy in the energy mix. And the technology supporting that will also increase the energy efficiency. And as long as electricity is produced in the enough amount, the access to clean energy in general will increase as well. The largest obstacle, however, for this SDG is that the transportation sector has to be supported as well, because that is also a kind of energy, but that is a whole different story, which I will not go into today. Then, in terms of the environment, SDG 13 is another obvious one, climate action. As you've already mentioned, the energy sector is a huge emission of CO2 and greenhouse gases in general in Vietnam. And this is also because we have a lot of coal factories, which are obviously not that good for the environment. That is a huge challenge to replace these kinds of factories with renewable energy sources, but it is also a huge opportunity for companies that want to come into Vietnam. We have a big cake. Then also, sustainable energy will empower sustainable economic, which is related to SDG 8 and 9, especially SDG 9. It goes hand in hand with SDG 7 because the fossilization and innovation have to happen at the same time. They cannot go separately from each other. And last but not least, clean energy contributes directly to a healthy and sustainable community, as is set out in SDG 3 and 11. So those are the targets that will be achieved by sustainable energies in Vietnam.
Thank you, Châu. And Mr. Trưởng, you are the only expert in the green energy on our stage now. So where do you see the biggest challenge or potential to strengthen the green energy sector in Vietnam?
Thank you for your question. I try to be an expert, yes. Yeah, so if you talk about investment in Vietnam, so I think the big challenge is for foreign companies or foreign countries to invest in Vietnam is to understand the policy, the regulatory. It is not easy. Yeah. And most of European companies, it's not about the investment, it's not about the money. I think the money is enough on the market. And last year it was also cheap. Yeah. So, and there is a big advantage also for foreign countries to invest in Vietnam in green energy, because if they invest in green energy, they got very good conditions of interest, yeah, in comparison to other investment, because it's a green technology and green development and so on. Yeah.
We always see that there are so many incentive policies.
Yeah, there's a lot of incentive, and also the feed-in tariffs for solar and wind. I think it's one of the most feed-in tariffs in the world. Yeah, and that's the reason why Vietnam has made a lot of effort in development of renewable energy, realizing the energy transition. I said to my students before, what Vietnam has done in 1 year, Germany needs 20 years for this for this amount of energy into the grid. So the problem is exactly most of German or European countries, they are very conservative. They are thinking about what kind of interest I can get, very reliable for my investment. Not today it's 50%, but the next day 0. So it's a high risk for them. They have to check and there are no bankable PPAs in Vietnam. So that's the reason why the market in Vietnam for investment in renewable energy is only shared by Vietnamese companies and Korea, China, and so on. But there are very less German. So I think with Hai, we can improve that to make the process, the regulatory framework more transparent, and to discuss more about that. So we need, I think GIZ and also AHK have done it already, but we should do more in communication and to bring
the energy hub.
Yeah, and that's the reason why I think it is needed, such like an energy hub with real people, with people who wants to improve it in a very fast way. Yeah.
And as a VIT founder here in the on the stage, which role will startup technology will play in the acceleration of the green growth in Vietnam?
I think there's a big chance for new companies, for startup to settle new businesses, because startup are agile, startup are very focused on technology. Yeah. And I think startup in the field of storage, how to join the free energy market. So there's a big potential for startup in Vietnam, but also startup in Germany going to Vietnam if they have an app, on a software application that helps to bring energy from the sources to the right person within the grid. Because as I said, the problem you have in Vietnam is not that you have less energy, but you have too much energy. And how you bring the same also in Germany, but the grid, the infrastructure is much better in Germany. In Vietnam, it is there are a lot of weak points, I think there. And so startup are agile, they are very fast in development, and they should work not alone, but together. I also talked to the board of EVN that they have to create inside of EVN departments like startup that can work very independent and develop new technology, new software solutions, and so on to improve the power system.
Thank you. So I'm looking at you, Mr. Tariq Hassan. You are head of Digital Transformation Center of GIZ in Vietnam, and you run a lot of projects there. Can you maybe give the new project in Vietnam, the newcomer project in Vietnam from Germany, some highlight about how to do the project in Vietnam, how to make them successfully?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me here. Maybe I quickly frame what the GIZ is doing and what I'm doing in Vietnam. I'm leading the Digital Transformation Center, which is implemented by the German Development Agency, GIZ, and is funded by the Federal German Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development. And what we do is that we work together with the Vietnamese Ministry of Planning, namely the National Innovation Center and the Agency for Enterprise Development, to shape a digital transformation that is human-centered and sustainable together with the Vietnamese government. We do that in 3 focus areas, one being Industry 4.0, technology policy, and green tech, which is why I have the pleasure to sit with you here today. Yesterday, the federal minister, if you saw her speech, she actually announced the launch of our Green Tech Hub, which is kicking off next month. It's a project where we offer multiple programs, ranging from incubation, acceleration, and a landing pad for global startups who want to come to Vietnam that are interested in supporting the green technology transition in Vietnam. And I think some of the big advantages we see in Vietnam are first talent that also Dr. Hai already mentioned. If you go into any cafe in Saigon or Hanoi or Da Nang, you can see the young people are really, really hungry. And when I go and drink my tea on the weekend in a cafe, I feel very lazy because all the Vietnamese youngsters next to me are working on their 3rd business idea, and you can really feel that there's a lot of ambition and passion in the air. So you have great engineering talent, a big hunger to change things and to change the country. And the second advantage you have in Vietnam is that the government has well understood that digital transformation and green technology is key. If you check out any ministry homepage, you see digital transformation is always at the forefront We did a policy scan, and almost all ministries have digital transformation strategies in place. Sometimes I wonder why I'm in Vietnam consulting the Vietnamese government when I think the German government, we have a lot to learn from Vietnam and how they really see the importance. But I think there are also a lot of opportunities for the German ecosystem because we're publishing in 2 months a green tech mapping where we interviewed 30 startups and intermediaries and did a desk research of over 300 actors in Vietnam active in the green tech landscape. And what we found is that you have a lot of energy startups from energy efficiency and management, renewable energy, energy storage, who are very eager to scale. But what we are still lacking in the Vietnamese ecosystems is the awareness of investors. So you have investors who are very familiar with gaming startups, fintech startups, but we need more specialized investors. So if we have any investors who are interested in renewable energy or other green technologies, we would love to connect with you to see how we can plug you into the Vietnamese ecosystem, because there's a lot of education that needs to be done for an investor who invests in a gaming startup to now understand the very technical work of the world of the energy system.
Thank you for the very interesting insight. So when foreign project and investor want to invest in Vietnam, want to do a renewable project in Vietnam, where should they cooperate with? Which if there's any like top 10 best local institutions that they should cooperate with in order to have the smooth entrance into the Vietnam market? Maybe Dr. Mạnh Hải.
Good, thank you very much. And first of all, I would like to thank you for Dr. Chung as well as Tarek for your sharing. And I think, but I would like to mention that actually Vietnamese want to learn a lot from German, eventually from the technology, also from the way of doing business, also take discipline and many others. The thing, in addition, of course, as I mentioned, in Vietnam we have young labor force and also have a culture of hardworking. And for the energy, Dr. Chung also mentioned about Vietnam have a lot of energy, but I think that is in the sense that we have a potential. We have a lot of potential to develop renewable energy, but eventually we still have limited power capacity, and also we still need to see the shortage of energy as well, and we need to improve especially the grids, the infrastructure, so that we can accommodate more like solar energy that booming in the last few years. But I mean the grid system has not yet accommodated all of that potential, and also that is also the obstacle for the development of renewable energy in Vietnam, and also the wind energy, wind power energy that has also great potential, but we still have to realize it. I mean, we still have low infrastructure and we still have not enough investment, and that's why we are calling for the investment from Europe in general and from Germany in particular, especially the technology from Germany, so that we can improve our energy sector, especially renewable energy. So for your question, specifically for the question of the institution, the local institution that we need to contact for setting up investment energy project in Vietnam. So I think first of all, we can contact the Ministry of Planning and Investment, specifically the Foreign Investment Agency in Vietnam, and where I originally come from, the Ministry of Planning and Investment, so that we can cooperate with and to give you the enough information for all the information for the setting up business in Vietnam, and also to set up a investment project in Vietnam, and also the Ministry of industry and trade, MOIT, and because they are responsible for all the energy project, and we need to contact the Ministry of Environment and Natural Resources because it's related to the environment. But in Vietnam, we have also the Green Growth Strategy made by the Ministry of Planning and Investment, so in which we also have also framework and also the bylaws for, and I mean the regulative framework for the energy green project in Vietnam. But at the provincial level, I think it's very important. It depends on the project, and most of the project, except the very large project, and most of the project in Vietnam, we need to contact the Department of Planning and Investment at the provincial level, and this is the where we can go and to ask for all the specific procedures, as well as the board of management of the industrial zone in Vietnam. If you are investing in the industrial zone, and I guess there may be some green project, we can also go to investment zone in the industrial zone. But some other project, like wind power project and solar power, maybe it is outside the industrial zone. So you contact the provincial department of planning investment for that. And also there's some research institute as well, because they like the energy Institute of Energy in Vietnam, so they have very good consultation and good consulting services for all the details. So that's the institution that I would like to recommend. Thank you.
Thank you. I think Tariq Hassan, you want to ask?
Sure, yeah. Maybe building on what Dr. Nguyen just said, I think it's very key to understand the market that you need to enter, especially Vietnam is a quite complex market, and the energy space is heavily regulated, which is not bad in itself, but it means you really need to understand where the room for innovation is. So you need strong partners. You just mentioned a few. What are the specific ministries? We're launching our Green Tech Incubator next month and next year with advertising maybe. If you're looking for the partnership builder, we're launching a Green Tech landing pad next year where we offer to German and international businesses who are interested in exploring the energy space in Vietnam dedicated business matchmaking. We do that together with the National Innovation Center, which is also under the Ministry of Planning and Investment, and we're curating investors, SMEs, big corporates and academia in Vietnam, and really trying to create an ecosystem to make that Vietnamese-German exchange happening. So if you're interested in that, if you're an investor, an SME or a startup interested in exploring Vietnam, we would love to get in touch with you. We also have a webpage, greentechhub.asia, that you can check out, and we're looking forward to maybe sharing some Vietnamese-German success stories next year at the Asia Women Summit.
Thank you, Tariq Hassan. This is wonderful end for our discussion today. We unfortunately out of our time, so if you have any questions, you can connect right afterward with our panelists today. And thank you for your attention, and wish you have a great day at Asia Berlin. And see you maybe next year.
I think we just experienced a very great example what can happen if NGOs, academia, corporates, government institutions and startups are working all together and tackling the challenges of our time, tackling the SDGs. So thanks so much for your contribution. We're taking our famous group picture now, and then after a very short break we are looking even far east to Japan. We have a guest from Japan over here, and then we will continue with the Investors Day. And after the break in the afternoon, we are happy to have the Embassy of Nepal, as well as the Embassy of Thailand. And also we have a nice cultural program sponsored by the Indian Embassy again to wrap up the day. And meanwhile, you're also very much invited to check out our interaction spots at the end of the in the end of the building, where other embassies are also presenting themselves. So thank you very much.
I know they shouldn't send me to
nước sẽ lên chụp cái ảnh kỷ niệm.
I think we lost the photographer, so we need someone else.
I think we have a lot of photographers here also.
Theo dõi video sau đó chúng ta thực hiện chúc mừng ngày tạm biệt, hẹn gặp lại những video tiếp theo sự kiện tiếp theo. Bye.